welcome back. This week we're going to go with Lefty Kreh Deceiver. This was originally done as a striper fly for in the Chesapeake Bay, and it is, I don't know if there's a species of fish that it won't catch. It's moved into the trout world, bass, everything, but it was originally done as a saltwater for stripers. But it's arguably had the biggest effect on fly tyers, since it was designed in the 50s. I mean, Mike Schmidt's double deceiver came out, changed the articulated streamer world. The deceiver style tails originated from this. Nowadays, and I'll get zoomed in here and get going, that's 200, I need one, there we go. But I'll get zoomed in and get going on this and explain it. But nowadays, you see the nice, neat two tails going back on the deceiver style. When this one was originally done, it was just a clump of 4 to 8 saddle hackles, and it was originally done in all white. We're going to go ahead and add some yellow today. It was really popular in chartreuse, and pretty much any color combination will fly on this one. I'm going to try and get these things somewhat close in length, but they don't have to be perfect. So there's 3 of them. Try and find one more that's pretty close. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a clump of these and I'm going to trim this off right here and get some thread started. Alright, so this is on Gami B10S size 2, I believe. Whatever hook size you want, whether if you're tying for stripers, you're probably going to be going with a longer hook. Trout, you're going to dial it down some. But whatever hook you want, I mean, they're reading the articles and everything, they said that there's really no prescribed hook for this, so I just grabbed something that I thought would look pretty close and give me about the length that I want for this. So with these, we're going to go about 3 times the length of our hook. And we're just going to get these tied in right over the back here. But like I was saying, nowadays you'll see, with these deceiver style tails, we'll have the 2 tails that go back, and they're really nice and neat. Really, once this gets wet, it's going to give the same effect. It may even give a little bit better of an effect, in my opinion. But it's all personal preference for the tire and how it looks on the bench and in the water. So whatever you choose, but this is how it was done originally. Next up, we're going to take some just Krystal, just some pearl Krystal Flash, and I'm going to try and get 3 strands here. There we go. I'm going to get 3 strands and run this back. I didn't like how that was sitting. Just going to go ahead and get these 3 strands tied in on my side, and then I'll bring it around to the camera side. Just running right down the line. Tied in laterally. If anything, you can go right on top slightly. And I'm going to cut this just short. Just short of the length of my tails. And get that secured. Then I'm just going to take probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 just regular clear Flashabou. I'm going to run that to the back. Looks like I got about 4 or 5. Oh well, who's counting? And then same thing with this. Just line this up. And these things like to curl on you a little bit. And just wet those slightly and it'll stay a little bit straighter for you. A little bit easier to work with that way. And then get 2 to 3 wraps to secure that, and same thing, just bring this over the opposite way laterally. Some of these are going to be off in length just a little bit, just so they don't really exceed the length of your tails. It's just adding a little bit more flash. This wasn't done originally. From all the articles that I've read, and, you know, doing the background research on this one, I don't think this stuff was put in originally, but it does give it a little bit more flash. The next step on this, we're going to take our thread right to the front, and I'm going to leave this short, probably 1/8 of an inch. And then this step you really don't have to do, but we're going to go ahead and throw this in. This is just some pearl core braid. I think it was after a couple of years after the fly was invented that Lefty had discovered mylar. And before that, I believe the body was just left empty, because you'll see as we tie in the bucktail. You really can't see the body, but it's just kind of fancies it up a little bit. That stuff really has some serious curl to it. But we're just going to take this one wrap right in front of the next. Go ahead and pinch your tail down, give that a good squeeze. With this stuff right here, it's not really going to compress on you, so I mean, you don't have to worry too much about, you know, giving a good anchor wrap on this, but it's just good practice to. It's just a good practice to do that. But there's not a whole lot of compression on this one, so not necessary. And we'll just give that a quick trim. Next, we're going to go with some white bucktail. And I'm going to take this off. I'm going to go pretty sparse on this. Don't go, you know, real heavy, but don't short yourself either. Go ahead and get all this short stuff that's not going to make the length, and it's just going to add bulk. You want to work with just the stuff that's going to be making the length for your fly here. So then what we're going to do is probably come back halfway back our tail with this. So we're going to go about halfway, like I was saying, and then cut your bucktail. And then for this first one, I'm going to flip this upside down to tie this in. Clip your bucktail on an angle. And my hook decided to fly around on me. Keep this pretty loose at first, because you're gonna manipulate this with your hand a little bit. So keep it on the loose side. And it wants to spin just slightly. Go ahead and trim some of this stuff up. I got a little carried away on that one. I had a pretty sloppy cut. Pretty sloppy. I'll do better on the next one. Hopefully. Hopefully. Alright. I'm not going to spend a ton of time making that pretty. I'm just going to trim this up. Make sure that I have my taper. And then get this next section tied in. Alright, then we're going to go on top. Same thing with the white. Stay on the sparse side. Don't get too carried away. Oh, I don't know if I like that. It's a little on the thick side. Try to take out some of that. That looks a little better. That looks a little better. So then same thing, I'm going to take this back the same length, and then I'm going to take and try and make this a little more compact. There we go. Cut your deer hair at an angle. Now, like I was saying, you want to keep that relatively loose because we're going to manipulate this to where we have the deer hair coming all the way around. Pretty much going to have a 360 on this deer hair. So just kind of manipulate this with your hands to where you have a pretty good, coverage with this deer hair. If you want to, you can leave it a little more sparse on the top, because we're going to go with a yellow overwing on this one. And I'm just going to work this through a little bit. That's a little more sparse. It's looking pretty good. And I didn't do as good on that as I said I was going to. Go figure. Made a liar out of myself. It's going to mess with the taper a little bit. I think we'll still be alright. As long as I can save it on the last one, right? Yeah, that taper's not as good as it should be. Some shoddy bucktail work here, Josh. Last thing, we're going to take this fluorescent yellow and we're just going to lay this right over the top. You can go a little bit thicker with this and possibly a little bit longer than your white as well. Just gives us a nice cover. And then I'm going to go ahead and clip this deer hair again. Hopefully make this one nice and clean. Hopefully make this nice and clean. We'll see. See if that's going to let me have a good taper. That head got a little bit thick on me, but I think I'll be able to live with it. And I'm just going to work this back a little bit. And you notice when I was tying this in, I kept my left hand on the bucktail so that way I could really wrench down on it and get it tied into place, and it gives that little bit of extra flare you can see right there. That little bit of extra flare is going to keep the profile, but as it gets in the water, it's going to slick back a little bit. It's going to slick back slightly. Not a lot, but I like throwing that extra little flare in there, and it really fluffs this out when it's dry. As it's wet, it retains some of the bulk, a little bit more than if you have everything slicked back right away. So that's just how I like doing it. I mean, if you time after a while and you find you have a different preference, by all means have at it. Just a suggestion on my behalf. Like I said, I got a little carried away with the taper on this head. I'm not really happy with it, but not so unhappy with it that it's going to force me to reshoot the video. I think I'll be able to live with myself. Maybe. We'll see. But if you want to also, you can go ahead and take some red Krystal Flash and throw underneath for like a collar if you'd like. So just throwing it on the underneath side right here, it just gives a little bit of extra flash if you want. It gives, you know, a little bit extra color, maybe a target area. And then you can also either paint or stick some eyes on there, depending on what you want to do. There's as many variations as you can think of. They've been done, I'm sure. And then pretty much your limit is your imagination, which in my case, that's a pretty steep limit. But if you guys have any questions, comments on this one, leave them with me and I'll get back to you. But thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next week.